the pioneers of the Breakers, and you've been going now for 11 years almost? 11th year? 12th year?
We've been in for 10.
10 years, okay. So just give us a little bit of background to your family. Start us off with that.
We have 4 kids. Our oldest boy was, if I work backwards, he was about 8 when the Breakers started, and it was on the back of the World Championships where the New Zealand had done well in America and finished 4th in the world. And so he was at St Joseph's at Takapuna, and he came home one day and said, "I'd really like to play basketball." And he said, "Dad, would you coach us?" And we had no background in basketball at all. You know, I remember saying to him, "Well, I've seen Michael Jordan play, so okay." And so we went along as fans and bought corporate seats. And then the second year we got tapped on the shoulder, and we were asked if we would like to come and be the Auckland director, because there were 3 partners from Hamilton who started the club, and they really had misjudged the Auckland community. And they asked if Liz and I'd come as a shareholder, a quarter shareholder, and the directors. And we thought about that and prayed about that, and we thought, well, okay, all right, let's see where we go. And at the end of the second year, things were in disarray. And the first job I had to do was sack the coach. So unfortunately, we had a team where culturally there weren't any boundaries, and there was no trust, and there was real damage. And the coach, who was just the nicest, and is the nicest man, he was physically and emotionally, not physically wrong, he was emotionally beaten. But and a little bit like, I guess, you and the coach of the Aussies at the moment, he lost the team, and unfortunately therefore we had to make a change. And so at the same time we're talking to the guys, and the general manager who was setting the culture, he unfortunately also was not behaving in a manner that you'd expect, and there was certainly distrust there. And so it was a good time for him to go, because we found the accounts didn't match what he was telling the shareholders. And so at that stage I said to the 3 other parties, I said, "Well, we're going to need to put some more money in, guys, because we've got to start this thing." And they all said, "Oh, might be a good time to go." And so Liz and I are left with a franchise that we had no real vision for at that stage, and saying, "Lord, what have you done to us? What are we doing here?" And it's been an interesting 10 years, hasn't it?
No, you did a great job.
Awesome job. So that's a background to the Breakers. So I'll go with Liz on this one.
Okay.
Background to your family. You know, you're married and kids and that sort of thing.
Yes, we're married.
Yeah.
We have 4 children.
Yeah.
James is 20, Tom's 18, Kate is 10, and Matthew is 9. And James plays basketball, still does. He's actually over in the States studying sports business at Oregon, at University of Oregon. And Matthew, our 9-year-old, he plays basketball for St Joseph's and is absolutely basketball crazy. And the other 2 are as well, by osmosis, I suppose. And they were all involved in the club. The 2 oldest boys have always sold tickets, and we've always made them work. They come to the Breakers, they have to work. Kate is in charge of the pens after the game, giving out the pens to all the players, and Matthew helps. I hope he helps with the towels, does he? He's meant to be helping with the towels after the game, so that's a little bit of our family.
Awesome. Now, if the 2 of you could go to a basketball game anywhere, I mean, you've learned a lot about basketball in a decade. If you go anywhere on the globe, where would it be to see which team play? Other than the Breakers,
yeah,
of course, other than the Breakers, let's make that clear.
One team I would really love to see play live is the San Antonio Spurs. We model ourselves and use a lot of their, we do, we model ourselves off them, and we like their vision and their principles, and so I'd really like to see them play. In fact, more than anything, I'd like to visit their facility and meet the coaches and players.
Yeah, I agree, and you did talk to me about this a moment ago, and the Spurs are an incredible organisation, and we've talked a lot, Dean and I talked about, they have a real penchant for diversity. They really see diversity helps them grow, because you know that verse iron sharpens iron, and I think they really use that people coming from all around the world helping each other understand their place in the world. It removes a lot of ego, I think, and they have a team which works as a team in an environment in our league which usually the leader is the alpha male and the others there to support, but this is a different organisation and one we very much believe in as well. But the game that I guess I've already been to the game. I was very fortunate. The best game I've ever been to was watching James, our oldest boy. He was in the National Basketball Championship for Rosmini, and we beat the dirty neighbours Westlake in the final. So pretty sweet.
Yeah. That's great. You did talk a bit about the challenging start, and there's a sense of you had to sort things out from the start, but then really you started to build a vision. And if anybody rocks up to your training stadium, there's stuff all over the walls which talk about values and vision. Can you talk us through a little bit about that journey?
Yeah, as I said before, we found ourselves in this place and we're saying, Lord, why have you put us here? What are we doing? And for us, Liz and I, we talked about it and we thought long and hard and we prayed and we said, okay, we think we're here to use basketball as a vehicle, the Breakers brand particularly, as opposed to person, the brand of the Breakers, to influence the community. And Ken Youngson, who works in Crackerjack Kids as a program in schools, Ken and I talked, and we both agreed that music and sport have the greatest ability to influence. And I just see one of Ken's team in the background too. And so we really thought about how could we influence it, and that's around setting examples, around helping kids make good decisions. So we use the brand of the Breakers to have an inspirational and aspirational type group of people to be able to influence our kids to make good decisions. But to get to that point, you've got to be relevant, and relevant means you've got to have a status. And to begin with, we had a club which didn't have any status because we were terrible. And we finished last, or second to last the first couple of years with Andrej. We picked a coach who was so focused on being the best that he could be. And we spent the first couple of years determining the behaviours we're going to operate under, the vision and the values of the organisation. And no one compromised those. It became not Paul and Liz's vision and values, it became the club's. And it was very quickly the GM we appointed who rose up from the group, Andrej and everyone else, and they knew and understood what was expected of being a Breaker. But it wasn't easy, was it?
No.
So it was a few years later before you actually got the first ever victory, right? Was it in the, 6th year, 7th year?
Yeah, 6th year.
Yeah, okay.
7th year, right, yeah.
7th year, and I remember watching it on TV, and Andrej, in the celebration, he welled up with tears in his eyes when he talked about you guys, the Blackwells, and your belief in him. How did you have belief in somebody that in essence took a long time to succeed?
I think it was right from the beginning, actually. When we read his CV, we immediately saw that and just loved everything about him. He wrote this letter and we were both very taken by it, and we both said at the end of that letter, that's the guy we've got to have. And it proved to be right. We loved his work ethic, and he absolutely embraced the vision that Paul and I had, and that actually meant a lot to us, and we knew that we could achieve because he believed in everything we wanted to take forward.
Yeah, I've got a philosophy because I left school and my dad left school before 15. I left school early and started work, and I believe that if you've got three things you can get ahead, and they are common sense, communication skills, and a work ethic. And for Andrej, he had a work ethic. He's Eastern European. His dad was an Eastern European guy. He'd come to Australia, and he just worked long and hard. Secondly, he had common sense. He was an accountant, okay, and so he was smart. The trouble with, sorry for any accountants in the room, communication skills don't always come naturally with that, and that was the area that that's where he had to grow. He had to learn. He had to, and the thing that we saw every year is him trying to get better. reading, working hard to get better, and at no stage, despite losing, did we have people starting to turn on him within this team, within the club, because they all saw how much he was trying to do. And why wouldn't you back someone like that? And my memory of that game is not of us winning the championship, it's of him rushing off the floor to hug his wife, because they put up with 7 years of doubts and frustrations and criticism externally, and it was just a special moment.
And she was his greatest supporter. She was amazing.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about wives, so we'll talk about women for a minute. And the Breakers actually have quite a special recruiting technique, and it's called Liz. And she has amazing ability with the woman, the girlfriends, and you keep in strong relationship with them. What is your approach to the women that come in, especially new recruits that come into the team?
Well, firstly, just we welcome them into our homes. First of all, when what's interesting is the type of player that we tend to recruit. They come along with fantastic wives, and because the player is of a special character, we get fantastic wives. So it makes my job a little bit easier. But Paul and I, we always are at the airport along with Dean to welcome our players. We bring them into our home. They arrive usually at 6 o'clock in the morning on the US flight. We bring them in, take them into our home straight away. Our kids are there to welcome them, and then we usually take them out for breakfast. And it really starts with that. And then I embrace them into our family. I take them out for coffee. I'm very good. I know all the coffee shops on the shore and in Ponsonby. So I'm very good at showing them around. And it just starts like that. And I'm very close with Dean's wife, Christy. We have a great relationship. We're both quite similar, and so we think alike. And Christy, I have to say, is probably better at it than me, and she doesn't get the credit. She's fantastic with the wives, and they all love her. So we're very blessed in our organisation. So I think it's the girls are equally as good as you make out that I am.
Okay, well, it's good to know. It's good to know. They obviously players transition in and they transition out. Do you keep in contact with any of the girls after they leave?
Absolutely. I know. Well, I'm Tony Ronaldson. I'm very close with his wife, Cece Rickett. We're in constant contact. I know Christy is too. Jess Bruton. They've just been back just last week, and CJ is actually still here. Very close with her as Christy is as well. So we keep these relationships only because they end up becoming our friends. I don't know, people say you shouldn't become friends with them, but we can't help it because they're all so lovely, and I think why not? And they are part of our family, and they continue and always will be.
You do a fantastic job.
Can I just say something there?
Yes.
Liz does keep it going, but also the wives then become advocates for our club.
Yeah.
And we've got a guy who came in this year, and because he was friends of another guy, and the wives talked. And what happened was the wife of the previous player wrote a full, what we called a scouting report on this couple who were coming to New Zealand, so we would understand them, and they spent a lot of time with them to help them be ready for New Zealand. And so the team is an extended family, and the family, and I spoke to one of them, I said, you're still family, you're just not living at home at the moment. And they move away, but they're always still family, part of the Breakers family. And Liz is far better at communicating than I am. And the girls, they talk a lot, and it has a huge influence. Because as we know, it's a throwaway line, but a happy wife, happy life. The guys here, they come to New Zealand, they're away from home, and if their wife is comfortable and in relationship and community with other people, the guys do focus, and it makes it better for Dean and the rest of the team. So it's all part of it. And you talked about chaplaincy before, around it's the only one which is not about performance. There's a huge part of playing performance as well. Same thing.
Absolutely. I know you have to go because you've got a sick kid at home. But before we do, I did want to ask if anyone had a question that they might like to ask before they rush away.
Can I talk about Grant for a second?
You can.
Because this
Let me give the intro, Paul. So what basically happened was we knew that we needed to get a chaplain in with the Breakers. It was a new start, and I had said to Paul, I've got 3. So please check out the 3. I talked to Grant about the possibility, and Grant went off and had an interview with Paul, and the other 2 didn't get a look in. It was it. Paul met with Grant, and it was a done deal. It was sold, and he's been the chaplain now for 5 years. So go with Paul.
Yeah, so we had Timo Tangaloa. He was interesting when we first started it and were involved in the Breakers. We were going through emails of the GM who were just sacking, and we found these emails from Timo who'd been wanting to try and be involved with the Breakers. The man who was leading the organisation was in no way looking for anyone from a Christian perspective to be involved in that organisation. That probably helped with the culture as well to fail. And so one of the first things we did was have Timo come on board. And Timo, Francis is here tonight. So we were based out west, and Timo was out west. We moved back to the shore. And one of my beliefs and one of my mantras is we're best able to influence within arm's length. And that's about proximity. So coming to the shore, one of the changes we made was around having someone who was going to be available for wives, kids, and anyone in the organisation who was relatively close, and made the decision that we'd have to get someone from the shore. And so we had these 3 applicants come in from Ross to look at. Very clearly I saw we had a young fella, an older fella, and Grant, you were the middle one. And the grey hair, you weren't the older fella. We saw that he was in family, he was involved in the local church, and when I say local, very close to the Breakers. So it had a huge opportunity for, we have a number of people who come in who have a faith because of the characteristics we're looking for. And so the home that they could find if they wanted to, and having Grant there to help assimilate into that new family as well would be important. And so we made the change, and Grant spent a lot of time with the kids often, at the gym, just joining in and building a relationship. But it's not just the players. There's a huge amount of work he does with the off-court team, with the families of the players. He's sitting there, he's talking, he meets sponsors, he meets all sorts of people. He's involved in our organisation as a vital role, and it is performance-based. It's performance in life as much as anything. People are able to throw off some of the muck that they have by talking with Grant, and who knows where that leads to. But from a cultural perspective within our organisation, he's a vital cog, and he helps high performance as well as a whole lot of other performance within our organisation too.
More support. Anybody have a question? That's all good.
Sorry, but we've got a sick little girl at home, and we're going to run off and look after her.
I just want to say we appreciate Grant so much. I couldn't even imagine what it would be like if we didn't have him in our organisation. He just is so helpful, and he's actually very helpful to Paul and I as well as the players. So I just want him to know we appreciate it and couldn't survive without a chaplain. So thank you, Grant.
Sounds like a road trip to the Spurs though, with the head coach.
Yeah. As long as I can go.
Just to check out how they do
I'll
things.
be team leader.
Hey, thanks a lot for coming along, and all the best with you.
Over to you, dude.